I remember the night everything changed. I was at the peak of my career, sitting in a glass-walled office overlooking a city that I thought I owned, yet I felt like a ghost. I had just closed a multi-million-dollar merger, but my hands were shaken and my eyes couldn't hold a steady gaze. The night before the final negotiations, I had succumbed to the same old patterns of instant gratification, seeking a momentary release to numb the high-stakes pressure. I thought it was just a way to relax, a harmless discharge of tension that every modern man considers his right. When I walked into that boardroom the next morning, something was missing. The air didn't move for me, and my voice felt thin and hollow in my own ears. I watched my competitors exchange glances, sensing a weakness I couldn't hide, a subtle leak in my armor that no expensive suit could cover. That was the moment I realized that success is not about what you have, but about what you hold inside your own skin. I began to look for the truth, stripping away the noise of modern life, to find the ancient biological engine that drives the world's most powerful men. I discovered that the modern world is designed to keep us empty, constantly encouraging us to expel our life force for the sake of temporary comfort. We are taught that release is a reward, but in reality, it is a slow-motion bankruptcy of the soul that leaves us bankrupt of presence. Semen is not just a biological fluid, it is the literal seed of the universe, a concentrated essence of potential that carries the blueprint for creation itself. When a man learns to stop leaking this power, he begins to accumulate a form of internal wealth that the world can feel. Modern life has buried this truth under a mountain of digital distractions and easy pleasures, making us believe that we are just biological machines destined for consumption. But the seed is the anchor of our gravity, the very thing that gives a man weight in a world of floating shadows. The transition began quietly, a subtle recalibration of my own nervous system as I stopped the cycle of constant depletion and started the process of containment. At first, it was a struggle against the itch of habit, but soon the noise in my head began to subside. My body started to feel different, heavier and more grounded, as if my very bones were becoming denser and more resistant to the winds of outside opinion. I no longer felt a desperate need to explain myself or to fill every silence with nervous laughter and useless chatter. I noticed it first in the elevators of my building, where the usual frantic energy of the morning rush seemed to part ways as I stepped inside the small space. People who used to ignore me now stood a little straighter, their eyes tracking my movements with a strange, unspoken curiosity. It wasn't deviousness or aggression that they were sensing, but a total lack of internal contradiction that made me feel more real than the environment around me. I was no longer a man seeking validation from the room. I was the man who provided the room with its center. This is the power of the seed when it is allowed to circulate rather than be discarded. It becomes a fuel for the mind and a shield for the spirit. You begin to understand that you are not just a person, but a vessel for a cosmic force that demands respect. In the world of business, we are told that confidence is a skill you learn in a seminar, something you project with your hands and your tone of voice. But real confidence is a byproduct of biological integrity, a signal that your system is no longer starving for its own energy. When your internal economy is stable, you stop broadcasting hunger to the world, and the world responds by offering you the things you no longer desperately need. This is the paradox of power. The less you seek to dominate, the more the world organizes itself around you. I recall a meeting with a high-level investor who was known for his predatory tactics and his ability to rattle even the most seasoned executives in the industry. In the past, I would have prepared a script, rehearsing my answers to ensure I didn't show any cracks in my facade. That day, I did nothing but sit there, fully present in my own body, watching him with a gaze that had become stabilized by months of dedicated retention. I didn't feel the urge to speak first or to justify my numbers. I simply existed in the space with total coherence. He began to fidget, his rehearsed dominance failing to find a target in my stillness, and eventually, his own voice slowed down to match my rhythmic breathing. Without a single word of conflict, the hierarchy of the room had shifted, and he knew he was dealing with someone who couldn't be bought. Retention creates a density of character that acts like a gravitational pull, drawing opportunities and people toward you while repelling the weak and the chaotic. It is the process of caging the predator within, turning raw instinct into a refined and watchful state of readiness. The modern man is often a fragmented being, his desires pulling him in one direction, while his responsibilities pull him in another, creating a constant, internal friction. Retention dissolves this friction, aligning the mind, the body, and the spirit into a single, unbreakable pillar of intent. You start to notice that your eyes no longer dart around the room seeking escape or approval. They become calm windows to a soul that is finally at peace. This gaze is interpreted by others as a sign of high status because it mirrors the steady watchfulness of the apex. Even your voice undergoes a transformation, losing the thin, high-pitched urgency of the seeker and gaining the resonant, low-frequency vibration of the provider. You speak only when the words are worth more than the silence, and because of that, people listen with a different intensity. The importance of the seed in modern life cannot be overstated. As we live in an era of unprecedented energetic drainage, where our attention is the most valuable commodity, by protecting your life force, you are reclaiming your sovereignty from a system that profits from your weakness and exhaustion. This path is not about being a monk or withdrawing from the world. It is about becoming a king within the world, ruling your own domain with absolute authority. It is about realizing that you have the power to influence the universe simply by refusing to fragment your own focus. I have watched my business grow not through more effort, but through more presence. As I make decisions with a clarity that was previously obscured by brain fog, I no longer chase deals with the frantic energy of a beggar. I command them with the quiet certainty of a master. People often ask me what my secret is, expecting a new productivity app or a specialized diet. But the answer is much simpler and much more difficult. It is the daily act of choosing the long-term power of the seed over the short-term relief of the moment, every single day. This choice rebuilds self-trust, the most fundamental foundation of any successful life, because you are proving to yourself that you are stronger than your impulses. When you trust yourself implicitly, you project a level of reliability that makes you an anchor for everyone else in your life. The pressure of the modern world is intense, but retention thickens your emotional skin, allowing insults to bounce off and praise to pass through without changing your state. You become the mountain that the weather happens to, rather than the leaf that is blown away by every passing breeze. This is not a temporary boost or a motivational high. It is a permanent restructuring of your reality that begins the moment you decide to honor your biology. You are no longer sabotaging your ancient potential. You are finally allowing it to reach its full and terrifying expression. I have seen men transform from shadows into giants in a matter of weeks, not because they learned something new, but because they stopped throwing away what was old. The seed is the fuel for the fire of genius, the spark that turns a mundane life into an epic saga of achievement. In the boardroom, in the bedroom, and in the streets, a man on retention is undeniable because he is no longer at war with his own internal nature. He has integrated his shadow, harnessed his will, and placed his entire existence under the command of his conscious mind. The silence you carry with you becomes a tool of profound influence, exposing the restlessness in others and forcing them to confront their own internal noise. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You only need to be so coherent that your presence demands an answer from the world. Rule the universe by ruling yourself first, for the macrocosm is always a reflection of the microcosm that exists within the walls of your own physical body. The seed you carry is the same energy that moves the stars and governs the tides. Do not treat it as something cheap or disposable. As you walk this path, you will find that the people who used to overlook you will now seek your counsel. Drawn to the stability that you have cultivated, you will become a leader not by title, but by the sheer weight of your existence. A man whom others naturally want to follow. The road is lonely at times because the majority of men will always choose the path of least resistance, preferring the comfort of the drain to the challenge of the climb. But for the few who understand the value of the seed, the rewards are nothing less than total mastery over their destiny. I look back at that night in the glass office, and I don't recognize that man anymore. He was a shell, a successful ghost, who was leaking his future into the dark. Today, I am full, my energy circulating with a purpose that makes every breath feel like an act of creation and power. Modern life will continue to scream for your attention and your release, but you must remain the silent observer who knows that true strength lies in containment. Your seed is your legacy, the physical manifestation of your will to persist and to dominate the challenges of your environment. The shifts in how people react to you is merely the external validation of an internal truth that you have already accepted and mastered within your own soul. You are no longer a participant in the mediocrity of the masses. You are an architect of a reality that honors the sacredness of life. Stop seeking the fireworks of excitement and start seeking the gravity of stillness. For it is in the quiet moments that the real work of transformation is completed. A man who can sit in a room alone and be satisfied with his own presence is a man who can never be conquered by the world. The seed is the bridge between the animal and the divine, the point where raw instinct is refined into the gold of consciousness, and the steel of unwavering intent. Protect it with your life, for it is the very thing that gives your life meaning and your actions their true and lasting impact. When you enter a room and the air shifts, do not be surprised, for you have earned that change through the discipline of your body and the clarity of your mind. You are witnessing the universe responding to a man who has finally decided to take his place at the center of his own world. The modern world may have buried this knowledge, but it can never destroy the biological reality that governs the rise and fall of civilizations and the men who build them. You are the inheritor of an ancient power that is waiting to be awakened by the simple act of refusing to let it go. This is the real-life story of every man who has ever achieved greatness, the hidden foundation upon which all empires of industry and intellect are built and sustained. It is the story of the businessman who stopped being a servant to his urges and became a master of his own internal empire. People aren't reacting to your words or your clothes. They are reacting to the sheer volume of life that you have chosen to keep within yourself rather than discard. They are reacting to the seed, the silent commander that sits on the throne of your nervous system and directs your every move. Walk with the weight of 1,000 ancestors in your stride, knowing that you are carrying the flame that they fought to preserve through the long cycles of time. You are the guardian of the seed, the one who decides whether the lineage of greatness continues or ends with a moment of weakness. This is your invitation to step out of the noise and into the silence of your own power, to join the ranks of those who have discovered the secret of internal gravity. Do not scroll past the truth. Let it settle into your bones and change the way you move through the world forever. The journey of retention is a journey of remembering who you were always meant to be before the world told you to be small and to be empty. It is the reclamation of your throne, the restoration of your default settings, and the beginning of a life that is truly and undeniably your own. As the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, the silent confidence you have built will become an unshakable fortress that no external storm can ever hope to breach. You will stand tall in the face of adversity, a man of substance in a world that has forgotten what it means to be real. The seed is the power to rule the universe, for the universe is nothing more than the playground of the man who has mastered his own internal forces. Take the first step. Hold the line and watch as the world begins to bow to the king you have finally allowed yourself to become. Everything you desire is waiting on the other side of your own self-control, hidden behind the veil of temporary pleasure that has kept you blinded for far too long. Pull back the curtain, embrace the tension, and let the circulation of your own life force illuminate the path to your ultimate destiny. The story doesn't end here. It begins every morning that you wake up and choose to remain whole, to remain dense, and to remain the silent master of your own soul. People are waiting to react to the new version of you, the man who carries the seed of the universe in his very blood.